Trump makes massive announcement just in time for first 100 days, he's really doing it. It's going to be huge. President Donald Trump said Friday that a massive tax cut will be coming to businesses and individuals when he unveils his tax reform package next week. We'll be having a big announcement on Wednesday having to do with tax reform. The process has begun long ago, but it really formally begins on Wednesday, Trump said later while signing executive orders. He told AP, without providing numbers, that the tax cut will be bigger, I believe, than any tax cut ever. Trump said last month that he was looking for a major impact when he rolled out his tax plan. It will be the biggest tax cut since Reagan and probably bigger than Reagan, he said. We are the highest taxed nation in the world. And we are going to bring taxes way down, Trump said. Trump also said he wants to simplify the rules for middle-income taxpayers by reducing the number of brackets. Trump's comments came after he signed an executive order Friday aimed at reviewing a series of Obama administration rules aimed at blocking U.S. companies from moving their headquarters overseas as a dodge to reduce their taxes. We're going to lower our business tax, which is the highest in the world, the president said Friday. In one order Trump signed Friday, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin was directed to begin the process of tax simplification. The federal tax system should be simple, fair, efficient and pro-growth, Trump's order said. Contrary to these purposes, numerous tax regulations issued over the last several years have effectively increased tax burdens, impeded economic growth and saddled American businesses with onerous fines, complicated forms, and frustration. Immediate action is necessary to reduce the burden existing tax regulations impose on American taxpayers and thereby to provide tax relief and useful, simplified tax guidance, the order said. White House Budget Director Mick Mulvaney told Bloomberg Television Friday that the goal of the tax reform plan is to provide 3% annual growth. We're trying to backfill from there, he said. In face of Inca war, Hawaii responds with shocking warning for its citizens. As tensions on the Korean peninsula continue to rise and the North becomes increasingly bellicose in its desire to obtain and use ballistic missiles equipped with nuclear warheads, some Americans are beginning to think about how they would survive a potential nuclear attack from the rogue communist regime. While it is thought that North Korea doesn't yet have the capability to reach the mainland United States with a nuclear missile, the same cannot be said for the Hawaiian Islands chain, which is inside the range of some of North Korea's more advanced missiles, according to the Honolulu Star-Advertiser. In fact, Hawaii is not just in range of North Korean missiles, but also presents a rather unique, strategic target for any enemy, given it is the home of several important military commands, most especially the headquarters of U.S. Pacific Command. The increased threat of a North Korean attack on Hawaii recently spurred the Public Safety Committee of the State House of Representatives to unanimously pass a resolution urging lawmakers and citizens to take steps to prepare for the worst, according to the Associated Press. First and foremost, the resolution sought state funding for an effort at cataloging, re-equipping and refurbishing the hundreds of disused and forgotten Cold War-era underground bunkers that dot the island of Oahu, many of which were stocked with medical kits, food, and sanitary kits, the AP reported, but were cleared out and forgotten after with the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991. The resolution, which is now under consideration by the House Finance Committee, also called for an update of the state's nuclear emergency response plan, which reportedly hasn't been touched since last updated in 1985. According to Breitbart, the resolution also requested state authorities conduct public awareness campaigns to ready the public for a nuclear disaster. To be sure, lawmakers insisted they weren't trying to spark fear or panic among Aloha State citizens, but merely wanted them to take note of the very real and credible threat they faced and act accordingly by making appropriate preparations to survive a nuclear strike. Hopefully, those preparations and efforts to re-equip Cold War-era bunkers to survive a nuclear war ultimately prove unnecessary, but in the meantime, they better rapidly do what needs to be done instead of arguing about it at length, as politicians tend to do. Please share this on Facebook and Twitter to let everyone know what lawmakers in Hawaii are preparing to face. What do you think of this preparedness resolution from Hawaii lawmakers? Scroll down to comment below. Trump scores huge victory for pro-lifers. Puts Planned Parenthood in its place. In a crucial reversal of former President Barack Obama's pro-abortion policy, President Donald Trump recently signed legislation that would allow states to withhold funding from clinics that provide abortions. The resolution, H.J. Res. 43, was approved by the Senate at the end of March by a vote of 51-50, with Vice President Mike Pence casting the tie-breaking vote. On April 13, Trump signed the measure into law, allowing states to block federal funds from going to abortion clinics, including abortion giant Planned Parenthood, according to the Daily Caller. Under Obama's pro-abortion policy, states did not have the authority to choose which health centers received federal Title X funding based on abortion services. Title X, part of the United States Public Health Service Act, was enacted to provide family planning services. Under Obama, the Department of Health and Human Services prohibited recipients of Title X grants from excluding a clinic from receiving funding based on anything other than its ability to provide family planning services, according to a White House press release. In other words, if a clinic, such as Planned Parenthood, offered any family planning services, as well as abortions, and otherwise qualified for the Title X grant, a state could not disqualify the clinic because of its abortion services. Now, individual states have the authority to determine which clinics receive those funds, as they should, not just because of pro-life beliefs, but also because of states' rights. Seema Verma, administrator of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, pointed to the legislation as proof that the president was keeping his campaign promises, referring to Trump's vow to support pro-life and states' rights policies if elected. It's an important step for the administration that shows they want states to be in charge of the decision-making, Verma told reporters. Penny Nance, the CEO of Concerned Women for America, also applauded Trump's signing of the bill, as it allows more funding to go to other health centers that provide needed services for women and families, but do not perform abortions. We have been clear we want to shift funding from Planned Parenthood to community health centers, Nance said. House Speaker Paul Ryan also commended the legislation for undoing a law that essentially forced millions of taxpayers to pay for services they disagreed fault with. H.J. Res. 43 voids a regulation that forces states to use Title X money to fund Planned Parenthood. Taxpayers should not be forced to fund abortion, plain and simple, Ryan said in a statement. In fact, the abortion giant's most recent annual report shows that federal tax money actually comprised 43% of its total funding, equaling an astonishing, and disturbing, $553 million of taxpayer money. The measure Trump signed would almost certainly see a large decrease in those funds, particularly in socially conservative states. Like and share this article on Facebook and Twitter if you're glad that President Trump signed this anti-Planned Parenthood bill into law. What do you think about the measure President Trump just signed that will likely defund Planned Parenthood clinics across the country? Scroll down to comment below. Boom, Trump just made a massive move on 9 sanctuary jurisdictions, it's happening. The Trump administration's Justice Department stepped up its warnings to sanctuary cities Friday by demanding that 9 sanctuary jurisdictions either follow the law or risk losing federal grants. The California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation was among those notified, as were Chicago, New Orleans, Philadelphia, Las Vegas, Miami, Milwaukee, New York City, and Cook County, Ill. We're pleading with the cities, let's don't have a fight over this, said Attorney General Jeff Sessions. So I hope we don't tend into a fight, but we're perfectly willing to do whatever I can to ensure that we have the kind of unified effort that protects America. However, the letters sent to the 9 jurisdictions spoke of penalties if cooperation does not take place. Failure to comply with this condition could result in the withholding of grant funds, suspension or termination of the grant, ineligibility for future Office of Justice programs, grants or subgrants, or other action, as appropriate, wrote Acting Assistant Attorney General Alan R. Hardin. Hardin's letter said all those that were notified need to prove in writing to the Justice Department they are in compliance with federal law. All of the jurisdictions targeted have policies in place that bar local police agencies or jails from assisting federal agencies with immigration enforcement. In a statement, the Justice Department said the cities are crumbling under the weight of illegal immigration and violent crime, citing the increase in gang violence in New York City and the continued rise in murders in Chicago. The statement also said the jurisdictions have badly skewed priorities. And just several weeks ago in California's Bay Area, after a raid captured 11 MS-13 members on charges including murder, extortion and drug trafficking, city officials seemed more concerned with reassuring illegal immigrants that the raid was unrelated to immigration than with warning other MS-13 members that they were next, the statement said. Ever since President Donald Trump took office, he and Sessions have sought to convince sanctuary cities to partner with the federal government or face the consequences. Trump issued an executive order in January that threatened to cut funding to cities that refuse to cooperate. Sanctuary jurisdictions across the United States willfully violate federal law in an attempt to shield aliens from removal from the United States. These jurisdictions have caused immeasurable harm to the American people and to the very fabric of our republic, Trump's order said. Only Miami, among major metro areas, said it would drop its sanctuary policy. In late March, Sessions sent a second warning. The American people know that when cities and states refuse to help enforce immigration laws, our nation is less safe, Sessions said. Such policies cannot continue. They make our nation less safe by putting dangerous criminals back on the street. Sessions, at that time, warned that the Justice Department could either cut off funding to cities that do not comply, or claw back funding